Hi, my name is Ashish, and in this video, we will see how to use virtual network service endpoints. So virtual network service endpoints enable us to limit network access to some Azure services resources to the virtual network subnet. We can also remove internet access to the resource. Service endpoints provide direct connection from the virtual network to supported Azure services, allowing us to use virtual network's private address space to access the Azure services. So let me just log on to the portal and take it from there. I am logged on to the portal, and to continue with this lab, I'm going to quickly create the virtual network. If you know how to create one, that is okay, but if you don't know that, I would request you to watch me do it. Virtual network. I'm going to click on create. I'm going to create a new one. Okay, test assessor S and lab service endpoint lab, so I know test assessor lab vnet 1. I'm gonna go with East US. East US. I'm gonna click on next IP addresses. In the IPv4 address space, I'm gonna select the address space as 10.0.0.0.16. I'm not entering the another address space. I'm gonna make it, and I'm gonna add the subnet range, or let me keep it default to 10.0.0/24. In the security tab, I'm going to enter DDoS protection as basic, disabled, go with the default. Tags I'm going to skip for now. And I'm going to click on create. Okay, so this deployment is in progress. So as and when this deployment is completed and my virtual network is ready, I'm going to enable the service endpoint onto this. So I am at my virtual network, which is test assessor lab vnet 1. So service endpoints are enabled per service per subnet. So I'm going to create one subnet in here. If you will click on subnet here, under settings, you click on subnet here, that there is one default subnet that we created. And click on this subnet. Name it. Let's say I name it to private. And the range would be 10.0.10/24. My address space of this virtual network was 10.0.0.0.16, and my subnet range I'm adding it to /24 range. And if you would see service endpoints here, under service endpoints, I'm going to select I'm going to select the storage under services, right? Add it. So I do not have any NSG, I do not have any routing table under the service endpoints. I'm going to select Microsoft Storage Service, which says enable one or more service endpoints for this subnet. I'm going to click on OK. So it is adding the subnet into my virtual network. It is a private subnet. It has Microsoft storage. Now I'm going to restrict the network access for this subnet. So by default, all the VMs in a subnet can communicate with all resources. We can limit the communication to and from all resources in a subnet by creating a network security group. and then associating it to a subnet. So if I go, let's say if I go open a new tab, I'm going to open Azure portal. And I'm going to click on create a resource. And in here, I'm going to click on network security group. I'm going to click on create. And I'm going to use the existing resource group that I created for my service endpoint lab. And I'm going to name this network security group as my NSG private. Okay, I'm going to click on next. East US, because I created my network in East US. Next, next, and create. So this is what I'm creating, a network security group. So after this network security group will be created, so I am here, the deployment is underway. Okay, the deployment is done and I am at my NSG. And if you would see under settings, you have outbound security rules. Go on here. Click on add to add an outbound security rule. Now we'll create a rule that will allow outbound communication to the Azure storage service. Source, I'm going to select virtual network. And source port range, I'm going to keep it all. Destination would be, I'm going to select service tag. And my destination service tag would be storage here. All right. And my destination port range would be all. And protocol would be any, and the action would be to allow. Priority would be 100. And my name would be like allow storage all. I'm going to click add. So this is creating an outbound rule into my NSG that I just created. Now I'll also create another outbound rule that denies the communication to the internet. So this rule will override a default rule in the NSGs that allows the outbound internet communication. Source, select the virtual network. Source port range would be all. Destination would be service tag, and it would be internet, would be all. Protocol would be any. Action would be deny, and my priority is 110, and I'm going to name this as deny internet all. Like this. I'm going to click on add. Okay. Now I'm going to my inbound security rule, and I'm going to create one inbound security rule as well. So this inbound security rule will allow the RDP traffic to the subnet from anywhere. Okay, so source would be any, source port would be all. I'm going to select destination would be to select a virtual network. Destination port would be 3389 RDP port. The protocol would be any, action would be allow, and this would be 120. This would be allow RDP all. Click on add. Okay. Now under settings, I'm going to select subnets, and I'm going to click on associate. It will ask me to have the virtual network. I'm going to select my VNet 1, and under the subnet, I'm going to select private. I'm going to click on OK. All right. Now I'll see what further I can achieve with restricting the network access to a resource. So the steps necessary to restrict network access to a resource created through Azure services enabled for service endpoints various across services. So if you want to see the documentation for individual services for specific steps for each service, the remainder of this tutorial includes steps to restrict network access for an Azure storage account. So let's say I'm going to click on create a resource, and I'm going to click on storage, or I can select here. I'm going to click create one storage account. I'm going to select the existing storage group. Storage account name. It should be unique. Location is East US. Performance is standard. I'm going to keep it LRS. Or you can go for V2 under networking. Keep it default and then click on create and then create it. Okay, so this is creating your storage. Now, as soon as this storage deployment is completed, I'm going to create a file share in this storage account to proceed further with this lab. My storage is, I'm going to go to my file share under the file services, and I'm going to create one file share here. You can name is my file. Click on create. Okay, now we'll restrict the network access to a subnet. So by default, storage account accept network connections from clients in any network, including the internet. So deny network access from the internet and all other subnets in all virtual network except for the private subnet that we created. So what we'll do is we will deny the access to the storage account other than the private network that we created. So under these settings, if you would see for the storage account, you see firewalls and virtual networks. Click on it. It says allow access from all the networks. Click on selected networks. And here you would see add an existing virtual network. Subscription virtual network. Under drop down, I'm going to select this one. Subnets, we created one private subnet. Click on add. Click on save. Under settings for the storage account, now select access keys and note the value for the access key, key 1. Now we'll create one virtual machine. Let's see if I have one. Okay, I don't have one. Let me quickly create the virtual machine and come back. So if you see that this VM that I am creating, I'm assigning it to the subnet, which is the default, that is the public subnet. All right, so let me just create it. So as this is deploying this deployment, I'm going to create one new VM and I'm going to configure it in the private subnet that I created to allow for the storage access. How this will work. So this VM that I created, I placed it under the private subnet. The previous VM that I created, I placed it under the public subnet. Create. All right, so first one is created. I'm going to go to that VM. It is up. So now we'll confirm the access to the storage. So now I'm going to connect to this VM, the one that is connected to your public subnet. Um, I am logging on to my public subnet VM that is associated with the public subnet. I'm going to go to my file share. And I'm going to copy the key and I will try to map the file share to this from this VM that I created. Okay, I'm logged on to the VM. You can see the public IP address of the VM here, and I'm going to paste few commands that I will run to map that file share now. And I'm going to map storage account key here. Here it is. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to go to my VM, and in here I will paste the key, and in here I will also have the storage account name. Here also storage account name. My dash file share. File share. Let me confirm the name. My dash file share. It is mapping with the drive letter Z. La 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 la. Okay, let's do it. It says access is denied, right? And if you would see here, if I minimize it, I go here. And I try to browse the internet. I enter Google. I hope it will work. Okay. It comes up. Perfect. Now I will do the same thing on my other VM that I created in my private subnet. That is this. My test assert VM6. I'm going to connect to it. Come up. Okay. Yes. Okay. Now I am logged on to my test SR VM6, for which I associated with the private subnet. And if you remember, I created the outbound rules to deny the internet traffic. And then I associated that NSG with the subnet level. So not only this VM, if I'll create a new VM and I associate it with that subnet in which I have denied the internet access, this machine will not be able to reach internet. Let's see how it goes. So it's still revolving for waiting for the google.com, or if you want I can check any site, ping.com. It will not be able to reach internet because I have stopped it. But if I'll page cannot be displayed, but if I'll try to map the drive onto this VM, I should be able to do it. Let's see, administrator. Let me copy paste it if I'll be able to do it. So this is the one from which the internet is working. And this is the one from which it's not. Paste. All right, same thing. In here, everything is same. Let's see. From here, it is mapped. So if I'll do this, select it, copy it, and go to here, my storage explorer. And to here and do this. See, I'm moved to the network and this storage file is mapped. And because I allowed that particular subnet and the VNet to be able to access that storage, that is why only this machine which is associated with that subnet is able to contact this storage file. I hope this is clear to all of you. I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you have any queries, please mention them in the comment section. Till next time, have a good day. Bye-bye.